Hey everybody, what's going on? This is the Neutralzonereport, and I'm your host Joe, and we're back at it again today with the NFC South. So I'm going to be giving you my predictions and breaking it down for you this year. And this is a division last year that was separated by 6 games from first to second. So I have other predictions this year that say it's going to be a little bit closer than that. So let's hop right in. So would you looky there? The Atlanta Falcons are taking it. They're going to be your 2019 NFC South Division champs. I'm having them hurdle those New Orleans Saints for the number 1 spot this year. They're going to be 12-4 plus or minus 1. I have it predicted right there in the NFC. Their offense got 2 spots better, giving them the number 1 offense in the NFC this year, and they're jumping 5 spots to the 11th overall defense in the NFC for 2019. Okay, so 12-4 plus or minus 1. Those are your NFC South Division champs. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, and I think they're definitely going to have that number 1 offense really powering through the whole NFC this year, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Okay, so let's hop down to the notables. Notable 1, new Kings of the South. Like I just said, they're hopping New Orleans, so I think they're just going to be that powerhouse for many years to come if they can consistently have that high-powered offense. Matty Ice does a lot of great things there behind center, and if that defense can stay out of injury issues, they're going to be a tough team to beat. And there's going to be another reason why they're going to be a tough team to beat, but we'll get to that in a second when we touch on New Orleans. So although Atlanta was a tad bit behind, I think about 250 yards behind New Orleans last year in the running game, they were not behind in the offensive throwing game. They were 4th in the entire league with about 4,650 yards. And if you drop all the way down to the 12th spot, that's where New Orleans hung out at about 4,000 yards. So substantially better passing team than New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year when it comes to running the ball. So that's why I'm giving them that 1 spot in the NFC, and that's also why I'm giving them a better offense this year, not only in their division, but over some of those bigger powerhouse teams that include the Rams and a few others. So that's a big thing to add into the Kings of the South, because you're going to have to be putting up a lot of points and putting up a lot of good numbers in order to beat these elite teams in the NFL. Okay, so let's go down to that second notable, nothing but time. The Atlanta Falcons had a difficult time in the Super Bowl a few years back, maintaining possession of the ball and really utilizing that clock to their advantage, which ultimately resulted in their demise and the Patriots win. But this year and going forward, you have to make sure when you're offensively striking and defensively holding other teams that you can monopolize possession time, and to make sure that you are kind of in control of the clock, because there was, I believe, 5 games last year where the Falcons lost by 9 or less points. And if they would have potentially utilized the clock in the right way or had the ball last, then that's 5 more wins, and that puts you, at a 12-4 team. So utilizing the clock and protecting the ball to burn clock are all very important things, and it can take a average team and make them a above average team. So that's important to note. And finally, Matty Fire. I understand it goes Matty Ice because he has ice in his veins, but this year he's going to have fire shooting out of that hand, because he's going to be on fire. He's going to have the best season passing yard wise out of any quarterback in the NFL, and that'll come out of my quarterback predictions later next week. But Matty Fire has the weapons to do it. He has a good tight end. He's got Sanu, he's got Ridley, he's got Julio, and he's got an offensive line that just got 2 of the best offensive linemen in the draft better. So Matty Ice this year, or Matty Fire as I'm going to call him, watch out, because this guy is going to lead you straight into the playoffs with that cannon of his. Okay, so there you have it, short and sweet. Like, I'm going to keep the rest of the video, and your Atlanta Falcons are going to be your 2019 NFC South Division champs, 12-4 plus or minus 1. And again, it's going to come down to that last game of the year between them and the Saints, and who's really going to get that final win and the edge there in the division. But I have the Falcons to get it this year, a 2-spot jump offensively, like I said earlier, in the NFC offensive ranks, and they might be the number 1 offensive team in the NFL, but we'll wait and find out about that. 5-spot jump defensively. You're getting some guys back from injury that were out last year as starters, but I like Beasley there. I like McKinley. I like Campbell. I like Neal. I like Allen. So if everyone can stay healthy and play their role, I'm not saying this is your number 1 defensive team ever. I'm just saying they're a mid-range NFC defensive team, which will hopefully keep them around long enough to see late stages of this year's postseason and maybe returning to that Super Bowl they were at just a few years ago. So that's it for your number one spot in the NFC South, and that's your Atlanta Falcons. Now we are going to number two. Okay, I definitely foreshadowed a lot there at the number one spot of who was number two, but yep, as you imagined, it's your New Orleans Saints, and in 2019 they're going to be NFC South second place finishers at 11-5 plus or minus one, and like I just said a second ago, that 11-12 win mark will depend on that last game they face off with the Falcons, so that should be a good one to watch. It's prime time, and I can't wait forward to see who becomes the king of the South. I proclaim it's the Falcons, but you never know. Those Saints are pretty good. So 11-5 plus or minus one. 2018 in the NFC offensive rankings, they were fourth, and they're hopping up 2 spots this year, in my opinion. And then dropping 3 spots defensively. So a 3-spot drop defensively. Don't take that to heart. Honestly, it's such a minute amount of yards when you kind of compare those clump teams in the middle. That's about 117 yards right there. So it's pretty much the same defense you're going to get. Okay, let's skip on down to the notables, and the first notable right there, your first bullet, is number 9 for 16 more, and that means that Drew Brees wears the number 9, and I think he has at least 16 more games. I think he has more than 16 more games because this Saints team is going to be a playoff team, but at least 16 more, and after that, after this 2019 season's over, his future is unknown, whether he's coming back for another one or he's calling it quits forever. So if this is a team that wins the Super Bowl and goes all the way, I think this is probably going to be it for Drew. But, what do I know? He could play 5 more years. Who knows? But I think this is going to be about it, and I'd be surprised to see one more after this. So number 9 for 16 more. Enjoy all those games. And Hall of Famer right there. You're staring at him. So Hall of Fame quarterback, and it'd be cool to see him end with a bang and get another championship down there to New Orleans. Your second notable is play to your strengths and not your weaknesses, and it doesn't take an Einstein to understand what that means, but the Saints do a phenomenal job at rolling out different kind of offensive schemes and packages and really confusing that opposing defense. They do it better than anyone else, and they have to continue to do that to be successful in the upcoming year. But they do a lot of fun things with Tyson Hill out there, and Teddy's still there, and you have three quarterbacks who can toss the ball, but I remember a couple of times last year where they ran the 3 quarterback set. They have Tyson Hill behind center and Drew out left and Bridgewater out right and, Kamara in the backfield. But they do some fun things and definitely confuses a lot of teams. So you got to keep that up and stay away from the boring and the dull because that's not the Saints kind of football and that's not going to help them win anything. Okay, your third notable is the playoff bug. The last 2 years, the Saints really just have had some pretty bad luck in the playoffs. A pass interference that goes uncalled, a weird catch the year before. So it's been a tough 2 years for the Saints, and you just got to get past it. I think I brought it up last video with the Bears and the double doink field goal, but it is what it is, and if you live in the past, you're never going to move forward and progress. So shake that bug, cure yourself, and play to your strengths. Forget those weaknesses, and you have number 9 leading the way all the way into the playoffs, which the New Orleans Saints will be this year. Bam! There you have it. 2 for 2 so far, but that's your 2019 NFC South second place finishers at 11-5 plus or minus 1. And if you're watching, you're a Saints fan. This is easily again an 11-12 win team, and easily again the NFC South champions. I'm just giving the slightest edge to the Falcons because of how powerful that offense is, how much better that O-line got, and just different individuals coming back defensively to help them out. But, the 1 and 2 right here, 1 and 2, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch. If I'm a Falcons fan or I'm a Saints fan, both those games are going to be incredibly enjoyable, and I believe both these teams are going to have the offense and defense to be in the playoffs, which they both will be in the playoffs. And on top of that, they have the abilities, both of them, to go a long way in the playoffs. And these could be your 2 best NFC teams that have the best chance of winning the Super Bowl. So lucky enough to have them in the same division, and lucky enough to be able to watch them every Sunday or Monday or Thursday. So there you have it. That's number 2, 11-5 for the Saints. On to 3. How about those Carolina Panthers? I like the Panthers. I like Cam Newton. My favorite player is McCaffrey, so they're definitely fun to watch on Sundays. But this year I have them third in the NFC South. They're going to be third place finishers, 7-9, plus or minus one. I want to lean them towards that 8-8 record, but I just gave out 23 wins for the other two teams, so 8 wins is going to be hard to come by, but 7-9, and that's a strong 7. I have them falling 6 spots, which is a big notable, but falling 6 spots offensively this year in the NFC. And then in 2018 to 2019, they're going to maintain that 7th spot defensively. Now their defense actually got a little bit better, and I like their front guys there on the D line, but playing the Saints, I just told you how good they were. Playing the Falcons, I just told you how good they were. They're playing the Seahawks, who I have as an NFC powerhouse team. They're playing the Rams, so they don't have the easiest schedule in the world. So this is actually a better defense, and I'm going to keep them locked in there right there at 7th. So 7-7, excuse me, notables. First one is Cam changing it up. It's been reported of late that Cam Newton is going to totally reconstruct his mechanics and throwing the football. And, I don't necessarily like that, especially a guy who's already been established in the NFL. He's already, kind of created a game of himself. And to change it this far into your career isn't something I think I'd want to play with. He's already a good quarterback. He's already, potentially a Hall of Famer just because of those rush numbers. But, he's proven. I mean, he's been in the Super Bowl. He's won big playoff games. He's won big regular season games. And he knows how to lead an offense. So to totally, reconstruct and refine your mechanics, I'm not a big fan of that at all. And that's going to, be a reason why their offense is going to take a moderate hit and drop them to one of the lower half total NFL offenses this year. So that is a reason why. And then when you swoop down to 2, not so fast on McCaffrey. Again, I like McCaffrey, and I said he's my favorite back in the NFL and favorite player in the NFL. And not that Carolina told him to gain muscle mass. He did. He got a little bit bulkier, but it's hard to do what he did back-to-back seasons. I mean, last season he was in 99% of snaps. That's more than any player in the NFL other than specific quarterbacks, but 99% of snaps. He's in every play as a running back. So your body only can take so much. I know he's had a pretty good history of avoiding the injury list or injury report, but he got not so fast on him. You gotta slow him down, and maybe we cut that 99% of snaps to maybe 85%, which still makes you number 1 back, still makes you a 3-down back, but you're not out there for every play of the football game. So yeah, not so fast. And I just think that's the craziest thing. I mean, just to finish on that point, I mean, this guy averaged more snaps than Drew Brees. I mean, that's how many plays he was in, and it's unfathomable to me. And they got to really reel that back in, or he's going to be in some serious pain if they're put him out there all the time. But that's 1, 2, and then 3, 49ers and Panthers in the same boat. Like I explained with the 49ers a video or two ago, it's a tough division and tough schedule. The NFC South and the NFC West both have incredibly difficult schedules this year, and there's just so many good teams. I think the 49ers are a great team. I like Carolina. I like the Falcons. I like New Orleans. I like the Rams. I like the Seahawks. Say what you want about the Cardinals, but they might be able to put up some points. And then last year, one of the top 3 passing teams was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I have after these Panthers. So that's a lot of, the individual division games, and you got to go play 4 other games against a hard division. It's just, the luck of the draw. So same boat, and they're going to experience the same problems as the 49ers this year, in my opinion. But that's about it on them. And third place finishers, NFC South this year, 7-9. I'm about 99% sure that they're going to be 7-9 when it's all said and done. And if you're a Panthers fan, that's probably not what you want to hear. But this isn't a bad team. By no means, this isn't a bad team. They got better defensively. But I just think you need some offensive weapons out there. Greg Olsen can't stay healthy, but you get some receivers out there and some protection, and maybe another guy to take a little bit off McCaffrey. This is easily a 7-9 team this year, and the next year, an 11-win team. But I'm pretty confident they're going 7-9. Those are the analytics, and to hit all 3 bullet points, I'm not liking Cam's new strategy or the Carolina Panthers' new strategy by changing his mechanics, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it makes him 10 times better. I just don't see it. McCaffrey, got to slow it down. I'd love to see him get a second back in there. I know J.J. is still available in the free agency. That'd be fun to watch him down there. Maybe anybody, but I don't really like seeing McCaffrey taking 99% of snaps. It's moderately concerning for his health, but if it works, it works. So they obviously know what to do, and I'm not a head coach down there, so we'll see what happens there. And then finally, 49ers and Panthers, same boat. There's a few other teams that fall into that category, but sometimes that's just the luck of the draw, and you have to deal with it and get better. And maybe the Panthers can pull off some pretty big wins this year and prove me and a lot of other people wrong that they are one of the better teams in the NFC South, and they are one of the better teams in the NFC in general. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now it's time for 4. Okay, so if you're good at process of elimination, you already figured out that the Buccaneers will be 4th place NFC South finishers this year at 4-12, plus or minus 1. They're going to be falling 6 spots offensively there in the NFC this year, and then 1 more spot down defensively, making them the worst NFC defensive team. So 15-16, and then 6 spot fall offensively. So when I have teams with, losing records or 4th in their division, or, you see 6 spot falls there offensively or falls defensively, whether I'm talking about it, an offensive player, defensive player, whatever the case may be, that doesn't mean I don't have high expectations or I can't be proven wrong. These are just predictions. I think they're just going to be really, really accurate when it's all said and done. But something that is important is that first notable, and I think this is a do or die year for Jameis Winston. Jameis came in the league, and off the top of my head, I know for the first 2 seasons, he registered over 4,000 yards. In that first year, he had 22 touchdowns. The second year, he had 28 touchdowns. And then last year, didn't break 3,000 yards passing, but, he was suspended. There was 4 games that Ryan Fitzmagic had over 400 passing yards, which, by the way, that's why their offensive rank was a little bit higher there in the NFC, because Fitzmagic threw for 1,600 yards in 4 games, which if you take that away, they become like last. If you replace that with just the average amount of passing yards in the NFC, they drop pretty much halfway down. So Fitzmagic really was magic, but Winston can do it, and he's thrown over 4,000 more than once. So disregard the 2,900 passing yards last year. This upcoming season, he's really got to lay it all out there. Do I personally believe he can do it this year? I'm not totally sure. I do have my top 25 quarterback rankings coming out next week, so let's stand by for that. But he has the skills to do it. He has Godwin. He has Mike Evans, who's a top 10 wideout in my book. O.J. Howard, I believe, is going to have a good season. You do lose D-Jax, so I don't know. 4,000? Yeah, I'll give him 4,000. I'll give him anywhere between 4,000 to 4,200, probably around that 27 to 30 touchdown mark. Again, there are the weapons there to do it. I think he's going to have a lighter load when it comes to pressure on that wideout game because he does have Peyton Barber, and hopefully there's going to be big things out of him this year. But definitely can do it. I'll take him over Mariota. I'll take him over Murray. I'll take him over Lamar Jackson. I'll take him over Trubinsky. I'll take him over Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G. I'll take him over all those guys, but I'm not saying he is going to be over those guys. He needs to do it. He needs that contract extension, or they'll just move on to somebody else. The next notable you got is Byron Leftwich. He's at the wheel. He's at the helm. He's going to be Tampa's OC for 2019 and maybe if they have success many years to come. He spent a year or 2 down in Arizona. I know he was their head coach for a second, and then after that he did a little OC work down there in Arizona himself, and now he's over here in Tampa. So I think if him and Jameis really get on the right page and can control this offense the way they wanted to, they will be successful for years to come. And I do believe that this is an NFL team that will be in the top 16 in the NFL in offensive power rankings. Only time will tell, though, with Byron, so we'll find out, and we'll see how his and Jameis' relationship works. Let's hop down to 3. For our third notable build around White, I mean Devin White. I mean the reformed running back to linebacker Devin White from LSU. This guy had 286 total tackles. That's the correct number in his 3 years there at LSU, which is honestly amazing. He had 28 and a half of those for a loss. He had 8.5 sacks, and we'll even throw in a little pick there. So did everything right in LSU, was an incredibly successful linebacker. A couple issues. The first issue he has is it takes him maybe a half second longer to read the play, or sometimes he just reads it wrong. The good news about that is he's so quick and explosive that he can make up the differential of him reading the play wrong and him catching up to it. So with the right NFL coaching on the defensive side, and he can hopefully eliminate that problem, then he'll just have the ability to run all over the field and get you anywhere. You really can't get past the guy. He's that quick. He's that fast. And it's a knowledge thing. It's a knowledge thing, and it's a understanding the play thing. So he's only been in the linebacker game so long, and for what he's putting up number-wise there in college, if that's just a start, it's going to be scary to see what he can do. So build around him, draft around him, and pull guys in around him. I know Tampa just went out and signed Ndamukong Suh, who I'm not a fan of, and wasn't a fan of him in Detroit. Wasn't really a fan of him in Miami, and I think he worked about 40% of the time with LA. So, if he comes onto Tampa and can teach the young guys a few things, I mean, he really is a good NFL player, and he does have a lot of strengths, and he can overpower so many people. But I just don't know if his career was all lived up to what it should have been. Hopefully, he can turn that around. He still has a few years left, and they do say fourth time the charm. So him as the veteran down there, and Devin White running all over the field and building around him, you're going to have a successful defense. Not this year, because right there you're last in the NFC, but if you do the right things, and in this upcoming draft well and get some secondary help, please. They need that. Get some secondary help. It might be okay. It might be okay in 2021. This could be a contender for the top of the division. But right now, not so much. And that's why I got him all the way down there at the bottom. Again, if you're a Tampa Bay fan watching, it's a tough division. And not saying if you were in another division, it'd be much better. But it's a tough division when you got to go and see the Saints twice and the Falcons twice and Carolina, what the things they can do, especially on defense. It's just a tough place to be, but it's just going to make you that much better. And when you are able to beat these high-powered teams, then you're high-powered, and then you're going to have a phenomenal chance at making a good postseason run. So this year, fourth-place finishers there in the NFC South, 4-12 plus or minus 1, and I'm going to say 4. I'm not going to say 3-13. I wouldn't do that to them. So 4-12 plus or minus 1, 6-spot drop offensively this year in 2019, and 1-spot drop defensively to make them the last place finishers in the defensive category in the NFC. This is the year for Jameis. I think he can do it. I'm 51% sure that he can do it this year, and I'm rooting for him. Byron Leftwich, hopefully things go well, and hopefully that offense can prove me wrong and not fall 6 spots, maybe maintain that second or third or maybe even a 4th spot there and be a top 10 offensive team. They have the talent to do it, but I just don't see it. So I think maybe Byron has a shot of proving me wrong, but I highly doubt it. Jameis is there, Byron's there, and build around White. We just talked about him, a great player at LSU, and will be a great player to come. I think this guy's going to be a Pro Bowler in about a year or two, so that'll be fun to watch. But with all that being said, those are your analytics, those are your notables, and this year, NFC South Division champs, the Atlanta Falcons, followed by the Saints, Panthers, and Tampa Bay coming up 4th place at 4-12. So that's your NFC South breakdown and predictions. And we have one more divisional breakdown coming up in 2 days. It's going to be the NFC East. So that's going to be all 8 of them. I'm going to put them in a playlist for your viewing. Go check them all out. Tell me what you think. If you like it. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Make sure you leave a comment, even if it's a mean one. I love to hear it. And if you have a prediction of your own that you want to let me know, please leave that as well, and I'll always answer. And on top of all that, if you have a video or recommendation, comment me or shoot an email to the link below in the description, and I'll email you back as soon as possible. So I'm Joe, and this is the Neutral Zone Report. And until next time, so long, guys.